Now let's get to those two big decisions from the Supreme Court today. First, a significant blow to the fight against climate change, but a win for Texas and 18 other states that took on the EPA. In a 6-3 vote, the court ruled the Clean Air Act does not give the Environmental Protection Agency Board authority to regulate carbon and greenhouse gas emissions from power plants. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, whose office was involved in the case, says the ruling will protect the Texas energy independence and economy. Now, Justice Elena Kagan wrote in her dissent, the decision strips the EPA of the power Congress gave it to respond to, quote, the most pressing environmental challenge of our time. The other Supreme Court decision today went the other way. The 5-4 opinion allows the Biden administration to end former President Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico policy. President Joe Biden suspended the program on his first day in office in January last year, but lower courts ordered it back in place in response to a lawsuit from, yes, Texas and other states. Joining us now is Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, an immigration attorney here in Austin, Texas. Kate, thank you so much for taking time to talk with us.
Thanks for having me.
You know, talk to us first about what exactly the Remain in Mexico policy is and what that looks like on a day-to-day.
So MPP, Migrant Protection Protocols, or Remain in Mexico, is a policy affecting asylum seekers in the United States that was put in place by President Trump. And the policy is, rather than processing asylum seekers into the United States when they await for their hearings, we are going to kick them back to Mexico, which has created all sorts of problems and dangers for the migrants. President Biden canceled the program. His cancellation was enjoined by the federal courts. And today the Supreme Court ordered that he does in fact have the authority to cancel the program.
You know, this came with much controversy, much discussion, particularly amongst the Republican leaders here in Texas who were supporting the Remain in Mexico policy. They said it was better for immigrants to be able to stay there rather than deal with some of the dangers that they would face here with smugglers and cartels. What's your opinion of this? You deal with this really on a day-to-day.
That is false. I've visited the migrant tent camps where many of these migrants live, and they are refugee camps without the support of the UN. So they depend upon volunteers for shelter, food, medical care. And the organization that I worked with over last summer worked with over 1,000 migrants, and almost 50% of them had been subjected to kidnapping or attempted kidnapping while they were awaiting their hearings in Mexico. It's a terrible policy, and the truth of the matter is our borders have been completely closed to asylum seekers, which artificially inflates the numbers at the border, because when someone gets rejected, they just come back and try the next day. They weren't given the opportunity to apply for asylum. And that's actually why we see people take dangerous decisions like getting into the back of a tractor trailer, like the 50 migrants who died in that trailer this week. It's not because of Biden's open borders, like Greg Abbott would have us believe in his tweet. It's the opposite. Our border closures have created danger and violence, and we need to get back to a system where asylum seekers can at least access the screening mechanism to see if they qualify.
You know, now that the Supreme Court has issued its opinion, tell us what happens next.
Well, we have the MPP program, which sends asylum seekers back to Mexico to await their hearing. We also have Title 42 in place, which is a border closure due to COVID. And so Title 42 remains in place. We're still going to see a lot of asylum seekers getting sent back to Mexico. So some of these problems will persist, but I think today was a really important step in recognizing that the president has the authority to cancel these programs. We'll probably see the same thing happen in Title 42, and maybe we're headed toward getting back to where we were before, which is an orderly, functional system where asylum seekers can present at the border, say, I'm afraid of returning to my country. Could you please screen me for asylum?
All right. Kate Lincoln-Goldfinch, immigration attorney here in Austin, we thank you for your time.
Sure, thanks for having me.